Alright guys, thanks for tuning in to the second episode here in that Stillwater fly tying series. Today I am going to tie the jig Simi sealed Marabou leech. Pretty similar to that brown magic leech I tied in that last video there. But this time I'm going to tie the jig style. So these I usually fish under the indicator on those cold early mornings or when the water temperature is lower than 50 Fahrenheit like I talked about before. This leech fishes really well. I fish it instead of the balanced leeches that everyone's so fascinated with, but I find that these are quicker to tie and they also fish better than those balanced leeches, especially if you give that that indicator some of that twitching motion and you're kind of retrieving it back into the boat. I find that it fishes quite a bit better. All right, let's get to tying. All right, here's a close-up of that fly that we're going to tie today. And just for reference, the Hanak 480 BLs is what we're going to tie on today. And I'm going to fish just a small bead or tie a small bead on there. And this is the MFC 2.7 mil slotted tungsten bead in silver. And it's a good little pairing, not too heavy for the fly, so when it hangs under that indicator, you can still give it some good motion if the waves are riding or there's a bit of a wind chop on the surface of the water there. All right, so I'll replace this guy with a bare hook. And for purpose of the video, I already put on the slotted bead, but I'm sure if anyone's tying this fly, that part's pretty straightforward, so I'll save you the time. All right. Similar to the last leech, I'm using, keep saying I'm fishing, not fishing, the UTC 140 in black this time. Just kind of a stronger thread so I can really lock down that material. I'm not tying a cron mid or anything, so I don't need the finer thread. All right. Let's bring that thread to the back of the shank there. And scissors. Cut it off. For the tail on this fly, I'm going to use black Marabou. I'm going to select kind of a good little bunch of that feather off the side there. Cut it off. And again, I'm going to measure that tail just a bit longer than the shank of the hook there. Just like that. All right, cut it to length. Pinch it in between your fingers at the back, bring that thread around, and give it a couple good thread wraps just to lock her down there. All right. All right, to give this fly a little pizzazz, a little razzle dazzle, I'm going to add a couple strands of dark blue, purple Flashabou. I'm just going to cut one strand off here. And just tie it kind of the same length as the tail itself. A little longer, a little shorter is fine. Personal preference on this stuff, guys. And feel free to use a different color. This is just a color I find that works really well. All right, fold it back over itself just for that second wrap in there. Do a couple thread wraps and then cut her off. I'm going to do this to the other side quickly. All right, bringing back my favorite tool, the dubbing twister. Those two little hooks, thread the thread through them, do a little loop. Hang it down, create a loop just about 4 to 5 inches. This might be a little bit closer to 4. And then bring those thread wraps back to the front, do a little whip finish, and then hang it back up. All right, so for the body today, we're gonna use a Arizona Simi seal. I love this stuff. Today we're gonna use it in black and blue, one of my favorite color combos for stillwater fishing on the lakes here. All right. If you haven't watched the last video, give it a watch. But for demonstration purposes on this video again, This is what that fiber looks like. Super buggy looking. I like to pull it apart and kind of get all the fibers laying down horizontally there before I put it in that dubbing loop. So I'm going to spread that loop open. Just going to stack them in here. Just like that. Do a little bit more. Pull them apart. Look at my little fingers in there. Alright, open that loop. Alright. Pinch the bottom of that loop there. Give your dubbing twister a couple spins till it's nice and tight. And then you'll want to let go of your fingers and let that material wrap up. Alright, I don't like my leeches too built up or too buggy. I like them quite sparse. I find that they just swim in the water a little bit better there. Alright, you're going to take your patented toothbrush, chop the bristles off, make it a little stiffer, or if you're fancy, you got yourself a store-bought one from the fly shop nearby. Alright, brush those fibers out. Pull out any of the ones that are wrapped in there. Alright, and then with your hand, your free hand, pull those fibers back as you wrap that material over the shank of the fly so they stack in the same direction. Don't worry, if it looks ugly now, we'll brush it out after. Alright, lock that fly down. Now that we've come to the head of the fly, you can give it a couple brushes. Get all those fibers pulled out again. Looks pretty good there, hey? That's going to hang down kind of upside down like that when it's actually fishing. And you can see that if it's under an indicator, it's going to have that like undulating motion. And that's what you look for. The fish, the trout, and in interior BC really like these flies. Black and blue, maroon, red and black. They're kind of the staples of my my fishing, especially in the early spring there. All right, kick that little thread stand out, and then wrap that loop. Bring it back up to the top with that thread. Lock it down, give it 2 or 3 wraps is enough. Grab your scissors and just cut the loop off. All right. Last step, get your little bottle of glue, whatever your preferences are. I don't like applying the glue straight to the fly. I find that the application might be too thick and you're just going to lock up most of the material and the motion of that fly up there. So how I apply it is I dab some along the thread there. Again, just the first inch, you don't need to overdo it. Just like that. Come on, glue, let's go. Come out of there. There we go. All right. Might be able to see just the dab of glue on there if my hairy beard's in the background. Pull those fibers back. Again, we don't want to lock those with glue. Give it a couple wraps. And then if you have a wet finisher tool, feel free to use that. I mostly use my fingers, but this just does a nicer job. All right, pull it tight. Just make sure all your threads are locked down in there. Cut the thread off, and there you go. Simi sealed Marabou jig leech. And you might be able to see from the bead that the eye of the hook points about 60 degrees, almost like that 90-degree balance leech hook that people tie on. But this has just that slotted bead that slides right up that bend. And under an indicator, it kind of hangs just a little bit off horizontal, but when you give it some motion with that marabou tail, it swims really nice, and I find that it works almost better than a balance leech sometimes. Give it a try. Hope it lands in your fly box. Thanks for watching.